Hey everybody, how you doing? I'm Pabs, a rising VTuber and artist, and today we are going to be doing another art attack. This is going to be fun. I've actually been looking forward to this one because the character design is really fun. It is for another VTuber called Starry Shy. She has a circus theme, and the design is super cute. And I was thinking about like how to approach this, and I'm thinking that like one of those aerial ring hoop things. I do think it's just called an aerial hoop. Circus terminology, acrobatics in particular, feels a little bit difficult to get a grasp on. I don't know what it is about it. Something about it is elusive to me in a way that few others are. But yeah, I checked out this video on getting onto an aerial hoop, and it's surprising. It's a lot. It reminds me a little bit of like getting on a horse. Like the whole thing is that you have to like hook one leg in there first, straighten out the leg so that you kind of shift into position, and from there you can just kind of like wriggle your legs around until you can finally finesse your other one through the hoop. And then you end up in a sitting position, a pretty comfortable looking one. Well, okay, comfortable is a bit of a stretch. Like you can very clearly see the ring kind of creating kind of a chasm between her thigh and her butt, and that does not look particularly comfortable. But it does look really cool, and I think it'll be a nice pose to work with. So let's do that. So let us begin that approach. So what kind of... Right. Okay, honestly, the most difficult part about this one is going to be drawing the ring. I don't know why. I can just feel it in the wind that this ring is going to give me trouble. Unless I metal shade it, in which case I might actually kind of beat the odds a little bit. Something about circular shapes in general is just a pain in the ass to me. But the good news is, we as humanity have developed technologies to counteract the tedium and hassle of having to draw rings ourselves. Hang on, let me just, boop. Perfect. I mean, I feel like that could stand to be a touch thicker. I do feel like this is gonna be a little bit too thin to be useful, because this one looks similar in diameter and shape to an ordinary hula hoop. Maybe a little... I don't actually know what would be more comfortable, because I feel like if it's too big, it's also uncomfortable. And not to mention unwieldy. I think this is a good happy medium. I think especially because the character has like these more like she's compact. She has like these very compact proportions. So I think this is gonna work out. Okay, put the ring there, and we will get to work, I suppose. Okay, so did you see how the top of the head just got completely flattened? Whenever that happens, it's usually not because I'm fucking up the the stroke, but because I'm drawing on like the very edge of my drawing tablet. So I'm gonna draw a big curve right here, right now, and you can see where where it hit the detection thresholds for my tablet. I love when that happens. I don't know. There's something both very immersive and kind of hilarious about using a non-touchscreen tablet that I don't think I would get from kind of like an inverted heart-shaped face. But yeah, there's something that I get from non-touchscreen tablets that I feel is going to be lost if I ever do end up switching to a screen tablet, which is that I don't have to look at the non-screen tablet. I can just kind of like freely look at the screen and kind of perceive it as it would appear. I do know that there are some people who have had issues in the past where, because they either had the color profile not calibrated correctly, or for whatever other reason, they ended up having some hard times with like reconciling the colors that they saw once they posted the drawing to the colors they had. Oh, she has a little hat. I didn't even notice that. But yeah, reconciling the colors on their tablet to the colors that are actually showed up in the posted drawing. And I think that might be because of a similar issue. Of course, it's very difficult to account for that, I feel. In general, just because it is such a varied thing. Like, I feel like computer monitors are one of those things that we should have standardized by now. Right? Like, I feel like we have to some extent is the thing. Because, like, nowadays we just have, like, HDMI, VGA. There's, like, 2 maximum. There used to be way more. Like, visual connectors, I reckon. And... hang on. Kind of like this. And maybe kind of like action line like this. Because... might have to move this up just a tiny bit. Good luck with the fighting. Thank you, Adept! I actually did end up trying to look into different color profiles and everything for a little bit. But no such luck. I think I was heavily influenced at the time by the thing in Cruelty Squad where you could see more of the game if you switched your computer to a... whatchamacallit? Like a 4x3? 3x4? No, it would be 4x3 because it goes width and height, I think. But yeah, if you switch your game to a specific resolution, you actually ended up unlocking like a bunch of secret hidden areas. And I don't know why, but I was obsessed with that. I thought that was the smartest, most clever thing in the world. So I was actually trying to look into other things where that could apply. Not really having much luck because how do you one-up Cruelty Squad? I know the creator of Cruelty Squad is working on a new one called Psycho Patrol R, but I don't know much about that one. Haven't really heard much rumblings on the old Telegram, so to speak. I really do think that the best thing that happened to me with Cruelty Squad is that I was introduced to it through the Civ 11 video, because that's just so well put together and provides such a good kind of taste test. Hang on. Might be better if I started with the legs first, actually. Okay. But yeah, it provides such a good taste test of what Cruelty Squad's kind of quirks and its understandings are, and it works really well because Civvy is somebody who grew up very evidently on these kind of immersive sim rule sets, so he's able to adapt to the game in a way that really eases you into it. I don't know. It's a skill with storytelling that I think is displayed. Oh wait, 4 fingers. All right. Very nearly made a very embarrassing mistake right here on the sketching stage. Did we ever know why it was that old cartoons and more cartoony depictions never ended up having all 5 fingers? What was up with that? I remember hearing that like the reason that it doesn't happen in Japanese animations is because it has like implications regarding the Yakuza, but like why did it happen in Western animation to begin with? Broadly speaking, if you're trying to recreate the human form, having the normal number of fingers would actually be more intuitive rather than less. Especially if all your art nerds were trained like, you know, this is before like cartooning was a super well regarded or important discipline, it feels like. I mean, 50-50, right? Because I imagine that at that time, newspaper cartoons were also kind of not really blowing up per se, but definitely they were in the public eye. Like by that point, they definitely had like a chokehold on the newspapers, I imagine. So it's hard to say why precisely that happened. Hang on, this feels Googleable. Why do Western cartoon have 4 finger? Why so many characters have only 4 fingers? Okay. Tradition, the most popular explanation. Okay, the most popular explanation for why cartoon characters only have 4 fingers is all about the animation process. As drawing only 4 fingers instead of 5 is a lot easier and thus saves the animators and the studio time and money. Oh, here's another explanation. Characters like Felix the Cat and Mickey Mouse, whose designs are rounded and mostly made up of circles, adding 5 rounded fingers on a rounded palm didn't look as good. Walt Disney once said if Mickey Mouse had 5 fingers, his hands would look like a bunch of bananas. To be quite frank, Walt, that one sounds like a skill issue. 4 fingers is also the middle point between alien characters, who typically only have 3 fingers and fall into the uncanny valley. Yeah, Bro said, I'm not gonna give this beast all 5 digits. That is like bananas. That would be bananas. Damn it. Huh. In Snow White and the 7 Dwarfs, for example, they gave Snow White 5 fingers, but they gave the dwarves 4. Hang on. Where's the... There we go. This is in order to keep the fantasy element. Huh, okay. Interesting. In some cases, specific characters have been given a 5th finger for different reasons, such as God in The Simpsons. What is the implication of that? Wait, what is that? Wait, what does that imply exactly? That's really scary to think about in terms of, like, theology. Like, imagine if you had a vision of God and you saw that he had, like, 6 fingers instead of 5. Like, what would you make of that, necessarily? I would question basically everything about my entire life. Also, these hands need to be, like, way bigger. But yeah, the banana fingers thing does sound like a skill issue, because I've seen at least 1 or 2 of those goofy rounded characters have all 5 fingers. The thing is, arguing about why it happened isn't so important anymore, because now it's just tradition. Now it's just how things are done. There's really no use. I mean, there is some use in understanding why it is, but I'm trying to say that there is limited utility in struggling to understand why it's the case. Like, if you say that doesn't make sense, and the explanation is, well, this is it, and you're not satisfied with the explanation, ruminating on that isn't going to make me any happier. That's life, I guess. Nothing you can really do about it. Also, I'm going to make the hands a tiny bit bigger, because I feel like for her, having, like, bigger hands would fit in better because of the fact that she does have, like, that more cartoony look to her. The yaoi artist had it right. There is something utterly satisfying about just drawing a big old pair of hands. You know, we mock inaccurate physiology and anatomical inaccuracies day in and day out, but at the end of the day, they kind of were onto something, I fear. Hi, Sentai. You found me at a very strange time to come into the chat. Oh god. Could you imagine if like somebody rated it right now and I was talking about the philosophical niceties of the yaoi hand? I don't know if I could walk that one back, quite frankly. All right. Okay, not quite. Okay, and then we're going to go like this. Gotta take a Shinkansen from Sendai to Nagoya today. Sick! How long is the trip? Sendai to Nagoya. I don't remember where either of those are, sadly. But if it's a Shinkansen trip, it's probably going to be an hour plus, right? I don't know. I feel like 3 hours is a sweet spot for a trip to take place, because in 3 hours you can get pretty well situated, I feel. Like if it's only an hour, then you can barely like get comfy, right? Like especially on planes. If it takes like an hour to go from one destination to another, first of all, you might as well just drive, quite frankly. But second of all, if it's just like an hour, then you're like barely sat down, you barely like gotten out your DS or whatever the fuck. You barely like started up a game of, I don't know, Catan on your iPad, or you know, you barely started watching like, I don't know, fucking Captain America on the little headrest TV screen before they're like, all right, we have landed, and you're like, wait, what? Okay, so this is gonna be like this. Wait, actually, hang on. The sleeves have a little bit more poof to them than that. So let's emphasize that. Have to transfer to Tokyo, but to there from here it's like 2 hours each. I see. 2 hours is a pretty good time. For 2 hours, that's at least like one movie you can get down. You know, that's like a solid session of fucking around you can do in 2 hours. Yeah, my personal sweet spot is 3 hours. Like I said, if you do something and you start to get invested in it, but like you realize halfway that this is like, man, I don't really like this. You can still like switch activities to something you actually do like, and that's going to, you have like the time to recover from that. You know what I mean? Like if you're already invested in a movie, but the third act like really turns you off for whatever reason, you can just switch movies and you'll still have time to finish watching it. Or if you're taking a nap or like sleeping, 3 hours is a pretty sizable amount for a snooze. Again, doesn't even have to be like the full time. You can just snooze and then decide you're back in the game. I'm personally a console fiend when it comes to traveling. I don't really. I haven't bought a new console in literally more than a decade. For reference, the last time I got a new console, my parents bought it for me. Still, that was like that was how long ago that it was for me. And actually, I do think the last console my parents bought for me was the friggin' Nintendo DSi. Because after that, I became like a full-fledged PC gamer. Oh, Lord. In a lot of ways, I think that saved my life. $80 market retail price is nothing to sneeze at. Even if it is for Donkey Kong. Okay, I'm gonna pull these knees up just a tiny bit. Try to not show too much leg because it's gonna the place where it's gonna cut is like right where her butt would be. It's not good manners to draw somebody's butt the first time you draw them. That's not how we do things. It's not polite. Oh, wait, this one could work. Would that work? I fear I've made the legs too long. Hang on, how does that look? But yeah, God, I do appreciate it how much of an airport's surface area is dedicated to wasting your fucking time. In several ways. Like, of course, you have you have your little Hudson newsstand or, whatever you have in your relative location that's like selling books and earphones and what have you, right? There are, of course, those. But also just like all the walking, all the tiresome waiting around for things that should normally take like 15 minutes instead like taking 20. I don't know. It feels like like every time I go to an airport, a little bit of my life has been assassinated from me at that moment. That's a bit dramatic, actually. I feel like there's a better way I could have phrased that, but it really does feel like so much of it is just pageantry. I think that's the best way to put it. A lot of it just feels like pageantry. And a lot of it is like practical pageantry is the thing. That's not a thing, but like a lot of it is practical because at the end of the day, you do need to walk that much because this is a building that is designed to store airplanes. It's not going to be a flippin' 10-minute walk to go anywhere. We need like at least a square kilometer of space between places so that we can have our planes roaming around free range style. I understand that. I appreciate that, and I don't particularly resent it. But I do resent whenever they put my particular square kilometer so far away from the square kilometer where I started. And that's a tricky part, because you can't really, like, decide where each person's square kilometer goes. Like, you try your best, you realize, okay, this many people have to go to this square kilometer every single day. Our entrance is here, and so I think it would be most economical if we put this very hotspot square kilometer over in this section, which is closest to the entrance. And then they're like, but what about the fuck-ass little... Pardon my language. The stupid little square kilometer that only this one guy has to ride like once a year to see his family. And they're like, put it in the ass end of nowhere. He won't mind. Oh shit, do you also hate the Toronto Pearson Airport? Please tell me you also hate the Toronto Pearson Airport. Please. I can't be alone in my particular in this kind of grudge of mine. There's no way that I'm the only one. Toronto Pearson International Airport. What an absolute freak ass place that is. God, I hate the Toronto Pearson Airport. Yeah, I had a transfer there that kept getting delayed and they changed the gate every time. Ah, yes. The, to their credit, they haven't delayed my shit too often, except for that one time they held me up for a stupid visa thing that didn't really even turn out to be an issue. And because of that, I missed my flight, and then I had to sleep in, like, right next to my bags and everything during the night. And that sucked. I wasn't a particular fan of that little experience. It was like it was a 2-star kind of experience at best. But yeah, I'm sorry to hear that you also had an unpleasant experience. As much as I'm glad to have a comrade in my grudge, it isn't right that people should have an unhappy time at airports. Airports should be exciting. Airports should be like a kind of prelude to the idea that you're going somewhere you've never gone before. Instead, they're just like nexuses of suffering and discontent. There's always a baby crying. There's like, everything's really expensive for whatever reason. The food is not good. People always joke about, like, what's the deal with airplane food? Brother, what's the deal with fucking airport food? Very little of it is genuinely good. Like, I'll admit, right? In all fairness, I'll admit that I've had a good meal or two at an airport in my time. But the vast number of times they are just mid. Aggressively so. In a way that isn't really particularly comprehensible to me. Like, again, I thought the food that was supposed to suck was on the airplane. I thought that was, like, for scientific reasons. Like, oh, yeah, the difference in air pressure actually, like, dulls your palate. I'll believe that. Sure, you know what? I'm not gonna bother fucking checking the Snopes on that shit. I'll believe that. Or like, oh yeah, it's all technically just microwave food. Because again, I believe that. I can understand why that would be the case because of like budget reasons for practicality. I'll eat a microwave meal or two in my day. You know what? I'll play your game. If it gets me across the world in less than 24 hours and crosses an entire ocean, I'll play your game. You know what? Why not? I'll have a microwave meal for that. You don't even have to have the microwave meal. You can just bring in something that you've cooked, and as long as it isn't like in a, like, I guess, Ziploc box or whatever, you should theoretically be fine. Yeah, as long as it doesn't have any meat products or nothing, you can make plenty of good vegetarian stuff. But why in the airport? I've spent a lot of time at airports, mind you. I've had a... I have spent I have spent a lot of time in airports, like more than most people, I feel. And for a place that is so familiar to me, the older I get, the less I understand it. I feel like, you know, like in movies or whatever, in like coming of age movies, like a kid will visit an old playground or an old amusement park that they used to go to as a young child, and like the magic is gone for them for some reason. That's like me with the airports. And, you know, I appreciate the fact that a lot of it is because now I am the quote-unquote adult in the situation where I have to manage my passport, I have to worry about scheduling and, you know, transportation and all that jazz. But it is crazy how much of a 180 I did in retrospect to airports. Or in respect to airports, I should say. Okay, so... I love the tail with a huge fluff at the end. That's really cute. No, I feel like that's not a good place for it to go. Maybe like that would be better, actually. There's some kind of crop duster or something flying above my house. God damn it. I call it a house like it isn't an apartment. I don't know. I feel like if I did end up buying a unit of housing, I would, if I didn't have like a family or any plans to particularly expand, I would still end up buying an apartment. Like, yeah, with a house, you get to play around with it and like renovate it and change it to your liking, but like, it's a lot of space. I'm already kind of kind of a bum at cleaning what space I do have. Okay, so this is gonna go like this. Love the little fangs. Gonna drink some water. I genuinely did not expect to rant about airports for as long as I did. How long was that? Like 5 minutes? 7? I feel like I let out a lot of deep-seated grudges in that short amount of time. 7 minutes is a lot of time, actually, to whinge about something. Okay, that's gonna come in. Let's make it peter out there. And you know what else? I think what might actually help here, just a little bit with the perspective, is to just make the calves a tiny bit bigger. Because I feel like right as it is, it makes her legs look a little bit small. So I think like this actually helps a lot with just like the sense of scale. Okay. I'm gonna erase this inner circle here. The eyebrows rest just a tiny bit above the hairline, which is a nice touch. Okay, wait, no. So that's gonna actually go a little bit further. And it's actually gonna turn out into those little side locks there. Oh yeah, let's add a couple of stars to the tail while we're here. Also, I'm gonna close up a little bit of the... What would you call this? Brassiere? Brassiere? Anyway, the top half of the garment here. Actually, this should go a little bit further up. Yeah, let me try something real quick. Okay. Stretch it up this way, and then... like this a little bit? Maybe a little bit further out. I feel like if we do it further out, Were there frills at the top of this? Yes. Okay. If we do it a little bit further out, the frills will be a little bit more natural to add. This middle line doesn't feel like it provides enough volume. Need to... Hang on. We'll have to make do with that, and then we'll play around a little bit with the... Hang on. Let me check something real quick. Okay. Okay. That's what... I don't know, is the side fat a little bit too overemphasized? My instincts are telling me to keep it as is, but I don't know. What have my instincts done for me lately? Maybe just like this a little bit. This feels like it's going against my principles. Okay. Okay, how do I avoid drawing what's in here in the middle? Could I like... Hang on. Because again, when you draw somebody for the first time, you really shouldn't try to draw too much attention to their butt. Or at least that's how I try to operate. It's a golden rule that has served me well throughout the years. You know what? That feels reasonable. We'll go with that. I like this too because it also making the torso longer also gives better proportions for the rest of the body. All right, we'll go with this. Okay, sliding this just a little bit to the right. Okay. Okay, and this huge thing behind her head is the ribbon. Wait, is the ribbon what's actually like connected to... Oh! Wait, if it is, that's actually really cool. Hang on, I gotta check something. I think it is. I think like the two scarf bits that are trailing down are like the top of the ribbon. And the part of... Oh, that's so smart! That's such a cool character design, actually. This ribbon is like also a scarf. Oh, snap. All right. That actually makes things much more interesting because then I can almost have the ribbon like, yeah, but then that would look like it would be pulling on her neck a little bit. I can make the bottom part of the ribbon much shorter. I think that's going to compensate for it. And that way it also interferes a little bit less with the tail. Okay, what kind of expression should we have? Or actually, hang on, should we maybe... Nah. Let's not overhandle it. And yeah, this way we can use the leg fuzz to... Yeah, from her... I guess those look lion-like? They seem pretty lion-like. There is a sort of correlation that has occurred between lions, clowns, and I guess just their proximity to circuses in general. Hang on, I need to bring her reference a little bit further up. Circus animal candy. Aw, yeah. Circus animal candy. I have been a fan of animal crackers for a long time. I will say, I am quite a fan of little animal crackers. Also, lions are the brand of Rolling Bros, or whatever their name is. Rolling... Yeah, wait. Rolling Bros? No. Lion is the MGM guys, isn't it? Warner Brothers is the big, dumb WB logo. Lions is the... Not the Warner Brothers. It's Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer, I believe. No, the Circus Brothers? I've never... Hang on. Circus Brothers Lion. What in... Ringling Brothers? That's not a real name. I mean, obviously they make... What the fuck? Ringling Brothers Circus prepares for final bout of greatest show on earth. Are the lions gonna eat him after the show? Is that the plan? I hope so. There seems something very wrong about all this. I'm pretty sure there's not supposed to be that many white tigers on Earth, let alone in a single room. Yeah, this doesn't seem particularly ethical. Good God, why do you have so many? Hang on. Ringling Brothers Wikipedia. 5? There were 5 of these guys? Who transformed their small touring company of performers into one of the largest circuses in the United States. It's what the greatest show on earth is based on. Huh. Okay. Wait, all these people died, though. It says. Hang on. They merged their Ringling Brothers Circus with America's other leading circus troupe, Barnum and Bailey. Oh, that son of a bitch. Ultimately creating the Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey Circus. There's too many ands! Okay, that is actually something fun that I learned about, like, the proper use of the ampersand. Is that it's supposed to be for, like, when something is and, but it's all still in the same thing. Okay, blah, blah, blah. An American traveling circus company billed as the greatest show on earth. Okay... After 1957, the circus no longer exhibited under its own portable big top tents. Then what is the fucking point? In May 2017, with weakening attendance, many animal rights protests, and high operating costs, the circus performed its final animal show at Nassau Veterans Memorial Coliseum and closed. After 6 years hiatus, a relaunched animal-free circus returned with its first show in Bossier City, Louisiana. It did not include clowns or a ringmaster. What the fuck did it have then? I mean, acrobats, I imagine, but like, you don't have the animals. You don't have. Okay, no animals is good. I agree with that point. I was just complaining about there being too many animals. No clowns or ringmaster though. Where's the sauce? This is the bald circus show on Earth. I mean, to be fair, it still sounds more virtuous. Where are the clowns? Bring out the clowns. I feel like if you asked one of the people to bring out the clown, they would just like roll out a large full-length mirror and like that would be the show. Like it would just be roasting the first person who was foolish enough to rightfully ask where the clowns are at. Was bringing back alive Frank Buck? Nicknames were just not very good back in the day. Muhammad Ali with clowns Charlie Fry and Skeeter Reese. God, really funny. Oh yeah, the Cage of Death. This one's actually really cool. I felt really nervous whenever it came out. I don't know. I felt like instead of somebody getting injured in the cage, I felt like I was gonna get Final Destination and the cage would start rolling over and crush me like a large ball from Indiana Jones. I think that was just my own neurosis, though. Okay. Well, that was a brisk little informative saunter. I don't have much else to add to that. That's... yeah. I don't know. I feel like that's somehow still more respectable than the loser that founded the Cirque du Soleil deciding to be the guy who has to love spaceships the most. Guy La Liberté, that was his name. I don't know. I feel like being the guy who really wanted to go to the space used to be a cool guy thing. Like wanting to go to space was like seen as a romantic sort of ambition. But now if you want to go to space, that kind of like puts you in some rather unenviable company. Time was you could just want to go experience zero gravity. Now it's this whole ideology thing. It's a fucking bummer. There's space equals nerds and then there's space equals rich, right? Like now you just have to be one of those chumps who has to be content with like knowing what the big arc is, or like knowing that there's like a huge star cluster out there named like Mecha Godzilla or something, or King Ghidorah, I think. It's named after a kaiju, I can tell you that much. But yeah, no, now you get conflated with all these rich losers. What happened to the game I loved? It really is kind of a shame. Also, I do need to lower the jaw a little bit. Like at some point we went from Neil deGrasse Tyson to Elon Musk, and as much as I have my own contentions against Neil deGrasse Tyson and his particular style of storytelling, there Elon Musk is inarguably worse. Like we have reached so low. Actually, come to think of it, okay, let me actually save that eye shape real quick, because the eye shape is pretty good. Okay, let's bring the thing back up, because I think it actually works better a little bit. Hang on. It actually works better if we have the lip be like overlapping with the mouth, with the chin. Gotta have them all there. More of a curve would be appropriate. Like that. But yeah, I was actually like a huge space guy back in the day. I was like really fascinated by stuff like the pictures of like the of like that map of the galaxy that was created at one time. I was really into that. I was really into like the vastness, the scale of it. I wonder what kind of happened to that. Maybe my earthly concerns began to outweigh my ambitions. That's not an uncommon story, after all. Alright, let's flip the canvas real quick. Okay, I think I need to move the head a little bit to the... Okay, to the right here, but it'll technically be to the left. I think I'm... Hang on. Maybe I need to make the legs bigger again. Yeah, okay, this seems about right. And then we have the thighs kind of out here, I guess. Alright, yeah, I can work with that. It is fascinating that, like, the more I draw, like, fatter bodies and such, the more, like, it's... I don't know. It presents so many more fascinating, like, brain exercises compared to like drawing like super thin bodies. You know, it's like I'm trying to like 3D render how the body would sit at that particular position. It's cool. It makes me feel smarter when I do it. Hmm. Hang on, let's just let go of everything else and... Huh. Alright. Hang on, let me try something real quick. Maybe this time what we need to scale up isn't the legs, but the body. Like, this feels just right. But it's still the legs. Something about the legs. Okay, and then we're going to... Something about this is throwing me off. I don't know what it is, though. Maybe if I just kind of reach over and... The proportions on this one are looking good. The hand position's not too bad. Kind of like the hand positioning of this one a little bit more than the other one, though. Hang on, let me see if I can't perfect this one. That one doesn't seem right. Okay, that finger I like. Let's just adjust that for the rest of these. Having the hands, the fists closed like that doesn't seem right. What I also kind of want to try doing as well is something like this, where I can just like stretch out this part. Something like that. Or actually, hang on. Don't need that much pen space. Something about this is also throwing me off. I feel like we need to move the bun over here. This one also needs to be a little bit more maximized. Going back to the reference picture. The elbows are a little bit closer in together in this one, actually. So my mistake might actually be that I'm getting them too far apart. Is the proportions on that all right? Yeah, that looks okay. That looks decent. I can swing that. I'll believe in that. Yeah. Actually, the whole banana finger conversation actually reminded me a little bit. She actually has rather small-ish hands. The fingers don't look super well defined, so I think it might actually be the better choice to... First of all, maybe shrink this one down a little bit. Yeah, that seems about right. This one's already about as shrunken as it can be. So we actually need to bring it up a little bit so it's even with the other one. Nice and loose, just doing what comes natural. And you know what? A little peace sign never hurt anybody. Okay, one finger. It's a little bit too big, actually. We need to shrink that down. Oh yeah, speaking of old cartoons, I was doing a little bit of research today on dog breeds because I was bored. I was looking up information about Saint Bernards, and it's apparently an urban legend that they carried around those little casks of brandy to warm up people that they rescued. And in fact, the kind of hostels that reared the breed, that kind of created the breed, actually denied the fact that this was ever true. It was mostly the work of one painting, which in turn became like the international image of these Saint Bernards. And then there were a bunch of different jokes in like Hollywood cartoons that the dogs were like habitual drunks and they would like sneak sips of their own brandy. And in fact, I think they were still active for a time, but the hostels where the dog breed was created is no longer active. But I think during the time they did also have like little caskets that you could take pictures of the dogs wearing them with you. And I think that's really cute. I don't know. Like I said, I had my gripes with the Greatest Show on Earth and its use of endangered species and such, but it's a slightly different story when it comes to like domesticated species, I feel, Because like if you asked a like Saint Bernard or a Mastiff or one of those big dogs to like jump through a hoop, I feel like that's not particularly offensive because I mean it's actually kind of impressive because like that breed isn't even really used for doing tricks. It is like a working dog. But it's also much less objectionable because they were kind of like, you know, selectively bred and made to be trained by humans. So it's a little bit less weird than, say, a tiger being forced to do like hamster wheel rolls. But I might do actually. Let me see if I can, and then let me see if I can swing this first of all. Okay. We should bring this arm down a little bit. There have been parts in drawing this where I was like, man, should I have used a 3D model? But then I remember, then I think about like how much of a pain in the butt it would have been to post a 3D model like this, and I'm like, you know what? Freehand is honestly pretty awesome. Let's not, it's too late for regrets anyway. Let's not worry about that such trivial things now. Yeah, that wrist looks fucked now by comparison. Let's change that a little bit. Actually, why am I messing around like this? We could just kind of reach over and nab a perfectly good functional arm. That worked much better than I thought it would. I thought I was about to learn some like earth-shattering catastrophe, like the picture was not really that symmetrical, but I don't know, that seems to have worked out pretty well. Also, as cool as the idea would have been to hang the ribbon on the... Speaking of dogs, we made dinner and my dog is sniffing around for scraps like she didn't get fed first. God. The gluttony of hounds is really something that is quite endearing. Oh, goodness. But yeah, I'm gonna... I think in the end I'm going to... I am just going to let it fly loose behind her. I think that's the best idea. Nope, that's not right. Okay, and then maybe this one down here. You know what? It is really funny that in my kind of hurry to finalize this, I did kind of forget that the ring has to be hanging off of something. I forgot how basic physics, gravity, and etc. worked in my innocence. I don't know, what could we have this be with? Because this one just has a very boring kind of winch type thing going on. Obviously, I feel like a star is the best choice. I don't know though, maybe Maybe a small-ish secondary ring up here. Yeah, I mean, this one's fine for like an aerial ring since you're not supposed to really jump around on it too much. Or no, rather, you're not. I don't think the ring is supposed to slide too much, or maybe it is. I don't want to nerf the tail too much. I might just need to... Maybe I have taken the wrong approach. Hang on, maybe I can look this up. So, aerial hoop knot. Where is it? How's she flying? Bro, she's just using pure whimsy. Yo, get a load of gravity lover over here who doesn't know how to levitate. Okay, aerial rigging at home. Doesn't quite... There's a physics equation and everything here. Hang on. Hold on, this is kind of tight. I was gonna say, so rigging guide for aerialists. And this is quite what I'm looking for, right? Because this is like those ribbon dancing ones. But then they hit me with the force increase is equals to mass to the square root of 2 times gravity times height. What does the up arrows indicate? I don't think we ever used up arrows in my school. To help you, we will be breaking down arrow movement into spice levels based on how much force is generated. Slower stopping time also means lower impact force. This is how safety crash mats reduce injury, by cushioning falls through extending the time over which the force is dissipated. Ah, mira tú. Whoa, hang on though. Actually, these look really cool. Check out the metal... I guess... Would these be carabiners? Kind of. But yeah, no, these look really cool. I don't know, there's something about this kind of like specific texture of metal that I really enjoy. What the fuck? Why do you need these in the contraption? Okay. Do those also work for rings, or... I believe... No, wait, look! Check this out. Oh. Okay. Huh. It's like a phone strap. It's literally like those little keychain toy things that you tie to your phone. Learned something new today. How about that? But that makes my life much easier. I feel like that's such a Seinfeld kind of phrase, Pabs. I've been really getting into metal bits lately. I'm straight up turning into that girl from Monthly Girls Sosaki-kun who says, like, I've been getting really into corn soup lately. Like, that's literally just some shit that I've been doing in my spare time. I have been getting into soup. Look at my track record of past stream names for the past, like, 3 days. 3 times I've streamed. Okay, so maybe what we do is we have the binding rope up here. Not hating the hustle, by the way, just admiring the mention. It is... No, I absolutely see the humor in it. I appreciate the admiration in the mention. I do feel like that would be some shit that I would say. I've been Googling so much strange things because a lot of the time when I'm Googling it is when I have some downtime at work or when I'm taking like a quick break. And so I'm just like thinking about to myself, like, man, I wonder what Saint Bernards are like. You know, like is it true that they have like gentle giant personalities? And I Google it and it's true. And then I read the Wikipedia article and then I'm like, oh, okay, cool. It reminds me my friend was saying KFC by its full legal name, Kentucky Fried Chicken, and I noticed because she kept saying the full title and never said KFC, just constantly Kentucky Fried Chicken. Your friend might have been a paid psyop. You know how like, no, I'm kidding, of course. It does remind me a little bit though of how like Photoshop technically hates people using the term photoshopping something. Like they want you to say like enhance with Photoshop image editing software or something. That is something that I've noticed that like, and I pointed it out and she was like, "Oh, I'm sorry." I'm like, "No, it's funny. It's a fun little quirk." Right? You feel worried. I absolutely feel a little bit worried whenever I point something like that out, unless I do wonder if like they genuinely don't know or like there are circumstances and situations for everything, right? For the most part, I try to avoid pointing out those quirks or like being like, wow, I think it's cool that you do that. I don't know. It's nice for people to do strange things for no reason. I don't know. It gives them a certain level of trustworthiness that that I would not otherwise extend to them. And you know that is also to some extent judging a book by its cover. But I feel like if you reveal, right, like if you tell me like, you know, I was washing my rice with dish soap up until like I was 22. Like you say some shit like that to me, I will feel like, okay, this person has absolutely nothing to hide from me. It's it's almost like when dogs show each other their bellies, right? Like, and at that point, I feel obligated to also share something silly that I did as well, because you know, otherwise, what kind of like, you know, social interactions aren't transactional and they shouldn't be. But at the same time, it feels weird if like they shared something vulnerable like that and I haven't. So then I'll have to go like, oh yeah, no, don't worry. One time I tried to like dye my jeans a darker shade of blue using normal like brush ink, and you know we'll hit it off. It'll be a tit for tat kind of thing. Your friend sounds fascinating, by the way. Okay, we can do that. I think we can get started on the line art, honestly. I'm gonna drink a quick sip of water. Something that I've gotten very proud of myself for, that I feel like it's not really worth mentioning, but I do want to mention it. Because again, I am proud of myself for kind of getting this far. I'm much better about remembering when my web browser source is open and when it's closed. She's great. She like I said, I only pointed it out because she said it like 5 times in a combo without ever saying KFC, and I was just, huh? Aw. Let's see, filter, blur, Gaussian blur. I feel like it's lopsided now. Hang on, what if I like... God, now that we have a, what do you call Valhalla song by Galroad on the BGM right now, I am obligated to discuss the absolutely insane DJ radio transition that happened today while I was listening to music at work. So I listen to a lot of online radio at work. I've talked about this before, and it really has been kind of a good experience for me because I feel like not being in charge of what I listen to has just been a very liberating experience. I understand now why people like let like Spotify or Apple Music decide what they're listening to next. But I feel like it's also different, right? Because like in this case, I'm like giving somebody else permission to decide what I'm listening to next. It's not just some algorithm elected shuffle. I think that's why I have a soft spot for the radio stations compared to like, you know, YouTube randomly putting me in a playlist every 5 seconds. Have you noticed that they do that now? Nowadays, whenever you click on a YouTube video, there's a 50-50 shot that they're going to put you in a playlist of some sort. When I started noticing it, I was like, help, get me out of here. Thankfully, it is pretty easy to counter. You just need to like go into the URL and take out like the and list and everything. Like there's like going to be like a little part of it that says like and list, and you just have to take out everything after that, and it'll put you in a normal video. And near as far as I can tell, once you click on another video after that, it's normal style. But the fact that it has the audacity to do that really like really puts my dick in a slap chop. I don't know what to say. It's gross. It's such a gross. It feels like such a gross attack on my autonomy. Have you heard of Hello Radio? It's a radio station from around the world you can listen to. I haven't actually heard about that one. Hang on, let me pull that up. Hello Radio. Hello Radio. Hello radio.com. What? Hello Radio. Around the world. Around the world. Around the world. I'll have to look into that. Yeah, earlier today, my friend Briar she recommended me Radio Garden, which is supposed to be a live radio from like around the globe, and apparently there was a Russian radio station that brought up that she was listening to, and they offhandedly brought up the fact that Hulk Hogan. And she couldn't tell whether it was like in a derogatory way or in a positive way. Oh god. Oh, thank you. God, really funny. Also different decades. Oh, that's neat. Yeah, okay, that feels much better balanced. Okay, let us Gaussian blur this. I also need to switch the direction of some of the stars on the tail here. But yeah, insane run transitioning between I Want You by Savage Garden to Heartbeat Heartbreak from Persona 4 to Every Day is Night from the Valhalla OST, also performed by Garode. Never seen that done before. Really cool. Oh, wait, hang on. Okay, so this... Hang on. Oh, snap. Okay. Hang on. Our work might not yet be... Okay. what retail tracks feel like, TBH. Also, I didn't notice until now, these are supposed to be Digitrade legs. That's what this little divot here is supposed to be, I think. Ooh. We can work with that, though. Hang on. I believe we can work with that, because if we go... Hang on. All right, we do need to take a couple steps back, though. Gosh dang it. Hang on, I don't know. I kind of lost my place a little bit in the... Oh, right, okay. Let's put this one down here, then. Okay, When I worked at the mall, our Christmas music went from, like, Frozen to Heartbreak Songs of the Day to other cartoon movies back to mid-2000s song? God... You know, they say that they don't allow the dealers at casinos to wear watches, but I feel like whatever that must be like is like infinitely less like psychologically damaging than whatever it is that they force retail workers to do. Wait, hang on. Couldn't I just kind of... Oh, okay. If I bring this up and then bring these down, and then have the little paws kind of hanging out right here. Just like a Whiplash of Do You Wanna Build a Snowman to Justin Timberlake early album song back to present music. Oh, God. Some stores really just are playing whatever old bullshit they can find on Spotify at the time. Like, I know sometimes the workers get to choose what music they're listening to, and, you know, more power to them for that, but, like, sometimes you have to, like, take a close listen and be like, this was not created by a human. This playlist, this mix was, like, concocted by some kind of alien species far beyond our understanding. It was a CD?! They burned a work-specific CD that they sent you to play. Christ. I don't throw the word slob around a whole lot, but good heavens. That sucks. Ay, Dios. Burning a work-specific CD for the employees to play, and it's full of that bullshit. The longer I live, the more I'm convinced that humans are the ones who manufacture hell. And whatever's waiting for us on the other side must just be some, like, pale imitation of whatever we have to experience in life. Okay. We need to completely rework the leg section. We need to, like... Hang on. Okay, so this is gonna kind of just go like this. Perfect, there we go. Easy U-turn pivot. Honestly, I will say that's my biggest advantage too. I struggle with like furry mouths, but I have a hard time particularly struggling with like furry legs because of the fact that I took biology in high school and I learned like how horse legs work and how like most mammalian legs are just iterations upon like the basic hand structure, just fucked up and different. I don't know, that really helps a lot in a way that I didn't expect it to. Like when I was learning that, I thought I was having like a cool, fun fact evolutionary science moment. I didn't suspect it'd be like some kind of Chekhov's gun for the few rare times when I had to draw Digitrade legs. But yeah, no, the the like focus tested Justin Timberlake to Disney OST to ordinary pop music is diabolical. I feel like they have to keep like the DJ who comes up with that in like a padded room for 9/10 of the year, and then just during December they let him out. It's the same guy that used to make like Dragon Ball Z Fighters balance patches. There are so many remixes of classic Christmas songs. That I can kind of appreciate, but I would absolutely see how it would get old very fast. Plus, some of these remixes are kind of ass, if I'm being honest. God, this is a similar struggle to what happens during Christmas time at my house, because we do still have like the Catholic practice of doing la novena, no? Right? And so part of the ceremonies for the two weirdest songs for me was Justin Bieber rapping Little Drummer Boy featuring Busta Rhymes. I feel like that's like trying to make a No Puppies for Christmas by Sia. Oh god, that really is kind of like an all-star lineup of absolutely nothing, huh? Oh god. Oh yeah. So okay, my family still does the novena because we still stick to a lot of the Catholic traditions, and whenever I'm home, and they ask me to read it because part of it is in English. Like there is like a reflection that part of it that that they ask me to read in English, and it's always good fun. It's a nice little moment where we all just kind of gather together by candlelight. It's very relaxing. It's very calm. It's a nice time to just kind of spend it together. But the problem is we only know so many like Christmas carols, and we have to open and close the novena with a Christmas carol, and we only know like 3, maybe 4. So what ends up happening is like, the first day we're like, con mi burrito sabanero voy camino de Belén. Con mi burrito sabanero voy camino de Belén. Si me ven, voy camino de Belén. And it's all fun and games. We laugh, and we love it. And then by day 5, it's like, con mi burrito sabanero, mi burrito sabanero. It's a little less gas to it. We've done the mi burrito sabanero for like 5 times. We don't have that much more. We don't have that much in us. We've atrophied. We burritoed too much. But yeah, really funny problem to have. Occasionally we try to find one that's in the book of songs, because like the thing is, the novena little guide reflection booklet does have guess y'all party rocked too hard. A little bit. Like the little prayer book that we use does have more songs, but we don't know how those go. So very often we just end up YouTube videoing like the name of the song and try to find the one that's like bearable to sing along with. Real good times. I do kind of miss it. Okay. Is that too much? I feel like that's too much length on the tail. Would it be better to have it? No. Having a tail somewhere else would throw off the balance of the whole thing. Although I do feel like we could stand to make the canvas just a tiny bit taller. And we could just stretch out the part here. Okay, I think we're ready to... Now we're ready to move on to the line art. You know, we've rebalanced everything. We've made sure that she has proper Digitrade legs. Everything's all right with the world. Actually, the right leg's looking a little fucked up. Maybe I could just, like... Actually, that kind of works pretty good. Hang on. Okay, and then... Yeah, alright, that's... I think we're ready to rock. Okay, now we Gaussian blur it. Take another sip of water. God, okay. The other day, right, we were having this conversation in the Discord server that, for some reason, the topic of both that horse game that's been very popular recently and aquariums both came up kind of in relative proximity to one another, which isn't particularly strange. But then somebody pointed out a very valid question, which was, what do they call the seahorses in the Horse Girl universe if there's no normal horses? And we did have to take a quick think about that, because my first instinct was to go to what do you call Wiktionary, right? And I was like, okay, maybe seahorse comes from maybe seahorse in a different name comes from like something else. And it turns out that the name seahorse itself isn't necessarily like horse related. Apparently it means like it had the same kind of roots as walrus, which also was water horse. But then we were like, all right, why were walruses called water horses? Like, what would we call walruses if, again, there are no horses besides the ones that appear in the game? It really did feel like a kind of which came first, the chicken or the egg kind of situation. You ever hear that phrase of like the absence of something can also be felt? Like if you try to push something out of your life too hard, it leaves like a hole shaped like the thing that you're trying to push out in your life because you're trying so hard to get rid of it. It felt a lot like that, actually. Okay, we're gonna cut these bits out. I don't know, at that point you just kind of have to invent like a whole new thing. A whole new word to describe the thing. It reminds me of this webcomic that I read a description of one time where like the idea is that magic in this world is so common, it's not even called magic, it's called like arithmancy or something. And you know, that felt like a fascinating kind of world building thing. And, it kind of like brings to mind how there's a bunch of different medical names for certain medicines, but sometimes we just call it like, oh, take an aspirin, even though it's just that they did that with the horse, didn't they? Like the Japanese word for horse is different than the horse girl anime. Yeah. So I think normally the word for horse is. It looked vaguely like that. Hang on, let me actually pull up the character for horse. It has that sort of shape, but maybe... Okay, no, I've got it wrong. So... Okay. So I was thinking of this simplified character for horse. But the more kind of... There's also this one here, which is, I think, what is used in Japanese for kanji. And that is... That has 4 strokes normally. So this is how it would be written normally if somebody was writing it like shit. But in the Horse Girl anime, they actually only have 2 of these little dots down here. Because these 4 dots here are supposed to represent the horse's legs. And yeah, they only have 2 legs in this universe. So very clever. That's a very clever little thing. I also really like the explanation for the difference in anime when they talk about like flame versus fire, and the way somebody pointed it out. So hang on, let me look this up first so I know I got the joke right. Okay, so the normal character for fire, and this is true for Chinese too, it looks like this. And the character and they were like, in anime they're always talking about, I'm just a lowly fire user, I'll never become like a flame user. And somebody asked like, what's the difference between like fire and flame? And somebody pointed out that fire is this, and flame is literally just kind of like this. There's just 2 of them. And that's such a succinct visual explanation. You don't get that with the Roman alphabet. Okay. Unless I suppose you use the whatchamacallit, unless you do some fun stuff with like capitalization or like lead speak or such. I remember one time there was a discussion. Makes you think someone pointed out the difference between chat am I cooked versus let him cook. I think that was a post about like a kid explaining it to his grandparents. Like, you're either in the pot or you're holding it. Yeah. Being at the helm versus being in the pan. You're either in the pot or you're holding it. I also remember this one that was posted by like an ESL teacher that he explained the phrase "bra moment" to his class, and then they started shortening it to "buramo." That was awesome. I love cultural exchange. One tweet that I am unhealthily obsessed with is this one about this person talking about how they took their little brother to an aquarium, and the little brother spent the entire trip looking at the aquarium exhibits and being like, that fish is tweaking, that fish is locked in. I don't know why it's so funny to me. I kind of want to know what a locked-in fish meant for that kid. I wish they had like posted a summary of the different of which exhibits were which, because for me, flounder, least locked-in fish I've ever seen in my life, I think. Like, hang on. I mean, actually, is the flounder a locked-in kind of fish? You know, from the side profile, you look at this guy and you're like, you know what? I don't think this guy's locked in at all. But then you look at you look at him head on. There's determination in those eyes. This guy means business. All right, looking at it head on, I am a little bit scared of him. A little bit. I think he could beat my ass in this position. It's like a Yu-Gi-Oh card. It's in attack mode right now. Unless you're SpongeBob. Unless you're SpongeBob. God. There's this very funny meme. I think it's because of a recent death battle video that dropped. That like now that kid from My Hero Academia is just going around looking for street tier superheroes to beat up. I don't know why that's so funny to me. Like the idea of this guy who is like tremendously weak, so he has to actively hunt down people who are weaker than him. Ay. Anyway, this is all to say that SpongeBob would clear that fraud easily. It's not even a contest. It would take 3 panels, and 2 of them would be like the reaction from the crowd. Then again, I feel like it's somewhat difficult to drive SpongeBob to true violence. Like, yeah, the guy does karate, sure. You know, he has the capacity for violence. We've all seen it. He's killed a man. We were all there. But I feel like it's very difficult to get him to that point. He's just such a genial, funny guy that I feel like the only reason that he would try to beat your ass is if you, like, truly did something to deserve it. Like, I feel like in those, like, I think we're gonna have to kill this guy memes, I do think SpongeBob would be the one saying, I think we're gonna have to kill this guy, Mr. Krabs. That's my own personal take on the guy. Definitely got that kind of sleeping giant energy. Okay. So then we're gonna go like... Nice curve. God, I read this ask on Tumblr recently for this artist who is kind of prolific at drawing larger women, right? And he mentioned that the reason that he draws them like that is because his crush at the time was built like that. And she had a lot of self-image issues, so he wanted to draw women like that to, you know, bolster her self-confidence. And it kind of occurred to me how little my art means in the face of that kind of conviction. Like, that's some real shit right there. That is unbelievably real. I do think that's the kind of love that like keeps you doing something for a long, long time. I think I draw because I think I genuinely draw because like it's what I learned to do growing up, and it's just become like second nature to me. But having that kind of conviction in your drawing, in your kind of ethos to art, is kind of awesome. I don't know. Whenever you meet somebody who has a genuine passion for creating, for a medium, for doing something that you do, you're kind of energized. You're kind of struck in awe by how much more it means to them, I feel. Me when all my OCs used to be white versus me all making my OCs brown now. That's what's up. It is really funny that once I also I completely relate to that, because now I feel like I almost feel like allergic to making an OC too pale. Like I'm like, damn, making people brown is awesome. And then I never look back. And it's also because a lot of real life is just like that too. Like you just take a second, right? You're out in public for a second. You take a look around. You see all these wonderfully different, diverse kinds of people. Like, you know, that person has their hair dyed. That person's wearing a super out there dress. This person's got a crazy tan that they probably got from sleeping on the beach or some shit. And, you know, it really is it does just kind of fill you with... This boob is way longer than the other one. I'm not the only one who sees that, right? Like, hang on. Oh god, yeah, no, what the hell? What happened there? Alright, hang on. I've danced this dance before. I know exactly what I must do. Is this why it felt lopsided? No, surely. I mean, maybe. I need to meditate on that for a while. But that can come later. I do wonder sometimes if I should just watch my footage back sometimes. You know how, like, in sports, there is the fastest way to get better at your technique, and this is true of anything, right? This is true of martial arts, this is true of, you know, team sports, this is true of a lot of different things. The best way to improve your form is to videotape yourself doing it and then look for flaws in that. And, you know, continuously just kind of improve that. Like, oh, this time I kind of extended my shoulder too far. Oh, this time my leg wasn't in the right position. And it's very tedious, but it works so well. It's generally one of the best ways to improve, is just to, you know, accept that tedium, accept those flaws, and just kind of get in there. And very often you are already identifying areas of weakness. You're identifying areas where you say to yourself, that's definitely something I could work on. That's definitely, like, right now, that's probably something I could tweak right now and make it 40% better. Okay, for this one, the lines do seem to be not diegetic. I think it is appropriate to include the lines in the line art. But yeah, I do wonder if that's also true for art. If you can just film yourself drawing. And, you know, obviously that's very easy for me, because what else would you call these streams? Oh yeah, that also kind of like helps to round out the shape of the belly. Ooh, nice. That is the one thing that I've learned. If you want to really emphasize the shape of something, give it some stripes. Or give it like something that can run vertically, and it can kind of like show off that curvature. Because that so easily gave the rest of the drawing like some depth that I wouldn't have been able to get to until like maybe the shading stage. It's easier on apps with clip lets you record your art as well. That is true. You can't do a time lapse. I forget to do that so often, actually. Even though it's such free and easy content. Maybe I need to make myself like a template or something that has that as like the page image. Just like myself pointing at the screen like, did you remember to turn on your time lapse? Okay. And then we're going to have the ribbon out here. Was there anything else on the neck there? No, seems like it was just a ribbon. I like the speed paints in app. Oh. Actually, hang on. We gotta... We're actually... We could just kind of reach over and stretch this out a little bit. The neck's a little wide, but I think with the wider head, that's not really gonna be a huge issue. But yeah, I do wonder to what extent you can study your own art making process like that. In this particular case, the error was pretty plain since it was just me forgetting to do the digitrate legs. But I don't know. I feel like there has to be you always feel like there has to be a more efficient way to do something. Even though due to the unique nature of each artwork, there's no guarantee that each thing will take the same amount of time. Okay, scale down width. Okay, 2 dots there. A couple little stripes on the eye. I feel like that's probably gonna go in during the whatchamacallit, shading stage or coloring stage even. I think I had a very brief phase where I was scared of clowns. I'm trying to remember like how dire it was. I think there was like a very brief phase where I was scared of clowns, but then I think my parents took me to a circus and I'm like, wait a minute, these guys are pretty cool. That or I cried during the circus, and I think the exposure therapy just kind of like wore off the shock. It's hard to say. The clowns of 2016-17 was sure a time. I do feel like people these days are a little bit bored. You know what? I think it's time. It's been almost like a decade. It's gonna be the 10-year anniversary of this shit. I think we're ready for the clowns to make a comeback. A clown back, if you will. I feel like now that the kids have so much access to TikTok and whatnot, I feel like the technical expertise and like the the technical effects of the whole thing are gonna go way up. The visual effects are gonna pop off in a big way. I don't know. Maybe this time around it's when people start getting into clowns unironically. I watched an RA on TikTok talk about the experience on campus just when it was happening. That must have been wild time to be an RA. Good God. I feel like they must have been talking about it like they were in Vietnam. Ay, Dios. The audio sound, there's a man in the woods. God. Just picturing the RA like that one painting of a soldier that's looking off into the distance. Imagine how fucked up it would be if like you if you realized you were being recorded for something but didn't really pay it any attention, but then you heard your own voice being played back to you in like a Gacha Life YouTube short that I somehow got into your feeds. I don't know why I come up with these scenarios in my head. I think I lack danger in my life. No disrespect to Gacha Life, but I have never seen a single one that looks like it takes place in a sane universe. Or maybe some disrespect to Gacha Life. I'm not familiar with its game. Maybe it sucks. I don't know. Something about the name Gacha Life itself just sounds kind of toxic. It's like when you hear like there's a place called like Death Hollow or like Death Valley or yeah, no, I was thinking of Death Valley for sure. I'm trying to think of like Death something that or other that isn't taken. Like Death Mountain's already taken, Death Valley isn't taken. I feel like we haven't had a Death Prairie yet. Death Prairie, I think, is like untouched ground. I feel like that one's up for grabs, yeah. What the fuck even is a hollow supposed to be? It sounds like some kind of cave that you accidentally fall into. But no, people call it like, yeah, no, check out this cool little town. It's called Sleepy Hollow. And I'm like, that sounds positively delightful. That sounds like a cozy little place. And then the Headless Horseman appear. I don't know. I feel like I would suck as a victim for the Headless Horseman. I'd be like, I would like see this guy on his horse with with like the pumpkin for a head, and I'd be like, bro, can I take a picture with you? You look sick. I mean, granted, he might try to throw his head at me, and I think at that point I would feel much more the gravity of the situation, but I feel like it would take a lot to kind of like establish that baseline level of violence. Like, from what I remember from the Disney short, Ichabod Crane was already kind of spooked just like the moment he saw him. So I feel like losing that psychological advantage would probably put me on pretty good ground. I don't know. I feel like if there's one thing that game what was it called? Like Horror World or something? That 1-bit pixel art game. So World of Horror, that's the one. I feel like if there's one thing that the World of Horror has taught me, it's that no supernatural thing, no matter how creepy or spooky it might be, is not immune to both baseball bats and having some kind of stupid weakness. Granted, sometimes the weakness isn't that stupid. Like that one evil fungus adventure where like its weakness turned out to be a flamethrower, and you're like, well, yeah, no, duh. I think most things are weak to flamethrowers, as a matter of fact. I don't know. I have a hard time picturing like terrestrial things that aren't weak to flamethrowers. Like maybe those crabs that live in those like molten steam vents that get like metal carapaces. Maybe those guys wouldn't feel too bothered by flamethrowers. Very stoic little crustacean creatures. Yeah, those ears are more or less even. Well, this one does feel like it's a little bit further up than the other one. Let's just kind of... I keep doing this where I try to like match the two things instead of just drawing it once and then putting it on both sides. But the problem is doing it that way creates a very unnatural symmetry that feels weird. Does this go over the shoulder or behind? It goes behind. Okay. I don't know. I feel like Western evil spirits are a lot more difficult to kind of fight compared to Japanese unearthly spirits because of the fact that I feel like, well, no, it's a little bit of both. There's pros and cons to each of them. Western spirits are usually like more sorcerous, I guess would be the term. In that they usually have like more magical abilities and some bullshit hacks. But like Japanese spirits are just like, their main problem is that they are just intangible and you cannot properly run from them. Like their whole thing is that you just cannot hurt them in any meaningful way because they're not within this world, but for whatever reason they're allowed to hurt you. I guess if your soul has abs or something, maybe that's the way to defend against them. I don't know, is there like an equivalent to like a vibrating plate but for your soul? Like those electroshock exercise machines? It's hard to say. I'll tell you what though, you know what cryptid would never catch me slipping? There's this one that's like a lady who asks you, she's like wearing a mask, right? So the idea is that she sneaks up on you late at night, and she would like ask you like, "Am I pretty?" And if you say yes, she takes off her mask, and it shows that she has like this horribly snake-like mouth that's been like cut open with a knife or something. It's like, "Am I pretty now?" And then you're kind of out screwed. Came back to vibrating plate for the soul. I was talking about like the differences between like Western and Eastern concepts of like ghosts and spirits, in that like Western like malevolent supernatural entities usually have some like bullshit superpowers, but Eastern ones usually have like their main thing is their intangibility and the fact that you can only get rid of them through like similarly supernatural means. For a lot of the Western ones, they do seem to have some kind of corporeal body for the most part. So I was wondering, like, the way that you would defeat one is just get a really buff soul. You know, like, and that's kind of like where the idea of a vibrating plate for the soul came from. Like, if you could like get your soul one of those like those like flex machines. Hang on, flex press or something. What do you call thigh workout machine? Undertale strength. Yeah, basically. Thigh workout machine TV commercial. It's not this one. There was like a machine that had like a commercial in it. Hang on. I know how to find it actually. So, okay. There is this... Okay. I'm gonna need you to like hold my hand while I walk you through the way that I know this thing. Back in high school, I found out about this YouTube channel called Silver Gunner, Giva Sunner, or something like that. So Silver Gunner, Sonic 06. And what Silver Gunner would do... Silver Gunner has two different channels. So there's Giva Sunner, which is just straight rips of video game songs. A very respectable craft in our day and age. And Silver Gunner is... not that. What Silver Gunner does is that it seems to upload perfectly normal, high-quality rips of songs from video games, but it remixes it surreptitiously with different songs or different elements. And a lot of these are actually really good. You could just look, and you look up any Silver Gunner one, and 50-50 chance it's like some of the best mashup you've heard in your life. And 50-50 chance it's some stupid shit that they pulled out of their ass for the bit. And now I remember, it's called like the Absolution. Absolution exercise machine. Because I remember that from the game Sonic 06, there is called like Dreams of Absolution. And I remember now that the... Wait, I don't think it might have been Silver the Hedgehog. I think it might have been Blaze the Cat, actually. But hang on. So, Absolution. Which one of these is it? Dream of Absolution. Hang on. Dream of Absolution. Silver Gunner. Oh no, it is Silver the Hedgehog theme. How about that? Okay. Okay, no, these are all just like normal... Okay... No, this isn't it. You know what? This is a dumb thing to be wasting too much time on. I don't even remember why. Oh, right, because of the soul vibrating plate thing. Yeah. God, I had to talk myself out of buying one of those like exercise maces. You know those weights that are shaped like a mace? They just seemed like a lot of fun to swing around, and I had to like really talk myself out of getting one. First of all, because I don't have enough space in my apartment, but like also I knew realistically that I would just probably stick to kettlebell training like I always do. I don't know. I feel I've mentioned this before. I do think I need to hit like an absolute low point in my life before I let myself purchase a sword. Like I feel like I need to hit rock bottom to give myself that permission. It's like my panic button. And I feel like this would be like one step too close to that. I feel like I would be like spoiling what it would be like to have a sword for myself. Also, the kind of taste that I've had in swords has changed a lot over the years. Like right now, if I would get a sword, I'd probably get myself like one of those Chinese broadswords, like sabers. And that's vastly different to what I would have selected like 5 years ago, which would have been probably a bastard sword of some manner. I don't know. If I'm really good, if I'm really good this year, Santa might bring me a spear. He said so last year. You know, it's a kind of working your way up. You know, first you have to master the staff, then you have to master the spear, then you have to master the not the mace. Which one's the other one? It's staff, spears, broadswords, and straight swords. That's right. Yeah, that's like the 4 classical Chinese weapons. There's the staff, the broadsword, and the straight sword, and the spear. I've always had a bit of respect for the humble spear. Spear, not sphere. The humble spear. Spheres are notorious braggarts, by the way. They think they're hot shit or something just because they have theoretically infinite polygons. I mean, I get it, you know, higher poly count would theoretically put you kind of like up on the food chain of the platonic ideal shapes. But at the same time, you have to kind of acknowledge that shape isn't everything, you know? The number of polygons doesn't really matter so much as, you know, what you're able to accomplish with that number of polygons. Look at the PlayStation 1, for example. Banger titles, maybe 30 polygons per screen at most. And even to this day, people copy the PlayStation 1 quote-unquote style. It is kind of fascinating the extent to which, like, it's the style versus, like, just the technical limitations. Because no console generation has a specific style. Right? There's no uniform style. It's just the different... It's just that, like, people seem to understand what worked and what didn't. And so it would kind of lend itself to having specific quirks that showed up time and time again. It's really a fascinating little field of study, but I don't really... I never owned a PlayStation, so I don't really give a fuck. Okay, then over here. Are we almost done with the line? Oh no, we forgot the hoop thing up here, but that's fine. That's gonna take like 5 minutes tops. I do find it incredible that I suck at drawing stars unless I do it in like this kind of pentagram shape. I don't know if I've told this story. I must have at some point. That the entire reason that I learned to draw stars like in this kind of pentagram shape is because I really liked Super Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door growing up. And I was obsessed with how different the crystal stars looked compared to the rest of the game. So I was trying to work my little tiny 6-year-old brain to its absolute limit, trying to figure out how the fuck to draw this thing because it just looked so cool and I wanted to draw it. And eventually I figured out like I figured out that it was actually this kind of the shape because of just how the crystal surface worked. There was a lot more to it, of course, but then I was like, okay, but how can I do that faster? Because I can't draw a pentagon every single time I want to draw a star. That would be stupid. So I eventually kind of figured out, okay, wait, no, you can just do this. And then I just kind of never stopped doing it that way. Granted, it works, but like, I don't know. I feel like I'm pouring coffee in like a weird way. I feel like in like 10 or 20 years, somebody's going to notice how I draw stars and they're going to be like, why do you draw them like that? And I'll learn that there was like this very standardized, normal way of drawing stars that everybody learned except me. Oh, it'll probably be like 10 years out before that happens. I'm not going to worry about it just yet. Stealing grief from the future is a chump's ordeal. Okay, then over here. Perfect. And it's great too, because once I figure out the general shape of it, I can just kind of draw its outline and not really have to worry about much. God, it is kind of crazy that thanks to everybody's hard work and my own kind of miraculous luck, under Deltarune Chapter 3 and 4 have been out for like weeks, and I still barely know a thing about what happens in the newer chapters. Thank God. I vaguely understand about the existence of this one guy who everybody's been drawing, but that's about it. That's like everything that I was spoiled on. And honestly, I can kind of just live with that. Like getting spoiled on one character out of like what must be like 50 dozen. Not a bad track record for the old Reister. For old Rice Machine Pabs. Maybe we can thin this out just a tiny bit. Okay. Okay. This one's gonna kind of come up like this. Got him. I remember the other day, right? I recently learned some information about like the different skincare ingredients do, and like, oh, hyaluronic acid does this. This thing over here does this. Yada yada yada. So I was actually taking quite a little bit of a stroll through like the skincare section of the local pharmacy, trying to see what was good. And in a moment of kind of like insane solidarity, like 2 meters to the left of me was another guy that looked to be in like his mid-20s doing the exact same thing that I was doing. Just like checking the back of each product very carefully, trying to like snoop around and see what was happening, which one had like this thing or that thing. I don't know, it felt it felt kind of nice. It felt kind of nice like having somebody in the exact same boat as me. I didn't end up really buying anything, but I hope that guy made it out all right. I am really happy that I've been reading more recently. I don't think it's done anything for my focus or anything like that. It hasn't been like a miraculous recovery of, my gifted child locked in energy. But I do. It's just nice to read. I think I really have just missed taking the time with a book. I think the only difference now is that I feel like each word is much more precious. I don't know. I feel like because I recognize that I have so little time that I dedicate to reading, I feel like I am much more jealous with the information that is presented to me, especially if it's something that I'm particularly interested in. Like, I don't feel comfortable reading anymore unless I have like my phone ready for me to like take a note or something or write down a thought that I've had. It's kind of stressful in its own way, but I feel like I gain more out of it. Then again, it is also true that I'm not currently like reading fictional books. I am mostly reading like accounts of different like business fraud and such. So that might also explain why. Yeah, just annotating stuff. I think that's a good way to put it. Yeah, like writing down something that I feel like I want to remember, or I love writing down every single thought I have. Same. I don't know how I used to like go about my life without having like a little like I use this one little app that's supposed to be like a checklist app on my phone for recording all my different like day-to-day thoughts and also like whatever I had to get done or something that I want to bear in mind that I've read somewhere. It takes me long to finish books, but it adds to the experience. I think that's the best way to put it. Like, while I'm more jealous with the time that I spent reading, and I take more preparations while I'm actively reading, I do also feel like I'm gaining more value. I'm retaining more of the information that I take in, and that's unbelievably valuable. And like if you factor in the idea that, I only spend so much time reading, then yeah, I'd better absorb whatever the hell it is that I'm looking at. Thank you for validating my experiences, Bunny. I appreciate that. Okay, there we go. I think a lot of enjoyment for me as well is the fact that I also just like fall in love with more specific phrases and the way that they choose to describe something. Like in that particular fraud book that I was talking about, one phrase that like really stuck out to me was that he was saying that, in the case of like one fraud that happened, the like the FTC didn't say it was legal, but they also didn't say it was illegal, which to them was good enough for rock and roll. Like, and the phrase "good enough for rock and roll" just kind of like keeps bouncing around in my head, like the DVD screensaver logo thing. Like sometimes they'll just phrase something that you've been thinking about or something that you wanted to condense into a few sentences, and they'll do it so succinctly and well, you'll like almost feel angry at yourself for not having thought of it that way. And those are the most valuable experiences. I like those the most. The face is too wide. I gotta do something about this. Hang on. Just the cheeks. Maybe, yeah, maybe literally just the cheeks. Yeah, I think it was just the cheeks, honestly. Okay, these kind of end right here, so I think we, rather than going like this, we need to go like that. Oh, and these are the ears, huh? Yeah, we're gonna need to extend those as well. Okay, and is that the bow? That's the bow, yeah. That's gonna need to come in for a landing. Okay, and I think I'm just gonna move this eyebrow a little to the left. Nice! Okay. I kind of want to finish this on stream, but we've been going for a hot second. I think I'm gonna leave this to maybe the weekend to complete. Yeah, all right. I think that's the best move. I think it's important to not get caught up too late doing this. All right. Is anybody else streaming right now? Let's see. Who is live? Oh wow, a lot of different people. On second thought, I think I'm just gonna end things here. We'll go bug them some other day. I'm gonna peace out. Everybody take it easy. Have a good rest of your night. Enjoy your Friday tomorrow. I'll see you all on Saturday for Tiny Terry's Turbo Trip. All right. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.